Okay, in each of these three problems, we need to write the equation for a sequence. So let's start with number 13 here. In order to write an equation for a sequence, we need to figure out what kind it is. So I'm going to check for adding. Let's see. So 1 to 3 is plus 2, and then plus 7, and then plus 18. So this is clearly not arithmetic, so it has to be something else. So if I do 1 times 3, well that's 3, and 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27. So it looks like this is going to be a geometric sequence because it has a common multiplier to get from term to term. So the ratio is always the further term divided by the closer one, which is 3. Okay, so there's a formula that we can use to write any geometric sequence, which is the first term times the ratio to the n minus first power. So in this case, our first term is 1 and our ratio is 3, which we can simply drop the 1 and write as 3 to the n minus first power. So that is the equation that can give us any one of the terms for this geometric sequence. So down here in this next one, we also want to write an equation. But here we have 64 to 32 to 16 to negative 8. So it goes from positive to negative. So this one's also going to be geometric. And we take the second term and divide it by the first term, which gives us a ratio of negative 1/2. So once again, the equation is always the first term times the ratio, negative 1/2, to the n minus first power. Okay, we know it's geometric because we're dividing by 2. 64 divided by 2 is 32. 32 divided by 2 is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. But because it goes positive, negative, we have a negative ratio. Okay, and then there's the last example. We want to know the 14th term of that same sequence. So the 14th term is what happens, a sub 14, when we take our first term and we multiply it by the ratio to the 14 minus 1 power. Okay, so that's 64 times negative 1/2 to the 13th power, which is 64 times negative 1 over 8,192. And if I simplify this a little bit, if I reduce 64 over that, that becomes negative 1 over 128. Okay, when we simplify 64 and 8192. So the 14th term of this sequence is going to be negative 1 over 128. Okay, no decimals allowed.